Let me ask you something real. When was the last time you looked in the mirror and actually saw yourself? Not the man she wanted you to be, not the one who kept bending just to keep the peace. I mean you, the real you, the one buried beneath all the overthinking, overgiving, and constantly wondering if you're enough for her. Brother, the hardest pill to swallow is this. Sometimes she never loved you for you. She loved the access, the attention, the power she had when she knew you would stay, no matter how she treated you. But here's the twist. The moment you finally realize your worth, her power fades. That's when the game shifts. That's when she feels the loss. And you? That's when you finally start to win. Let's talk about it. Point 1. She was never afraid to lose you until you stopped explaining. You know what scares a woman more than anything? Not your anger, not your begging, not even your silence. It's when you stop explaining yourself, when you stop trying to prove your worth, when you no longer feel the need to defend your love or chase after her validation. That's when her stomach turns. That's when she realizes you're no longer emotionally invested in her opinion of you. Because for the longest time, she thought she could play with your emotions and you'd keep coming back. And maybe you did, for a while. But the moment you got tired, the moment you found peace in the quiet rather than chaos, she felt something new. Fear. Not fear of you. Fear of losing access to a man who was actually real. Fear of watching you become someone she could no longer manipulate. And that's when the regret begins. Point 2. She took your kindness as weakness, but it was your greatest power. You didn't love her the way most men do. You didn't love her for her body, for the temporary thrill, or for ego. You loved her with depth, with presence, with patience, and she mistook that patience as passivity. She thought, he'll stay no matter how I treat him. So she tested you. She pulled away to see if you'd chase, pushed buttons to see if you'd break. But what she didn't understand was that your kindness had limits. It wasn't endless. It wasn't blind. It came from your strength, not your weakness. You were willing to forgive, not because you were soft, but because you were loyal. And when loyalty gets taken for granted, it disappears, and it never comes back the same way. She thought you'd always be there, but now she sees you were a rare kind of man, and she was careless with something priceless. Point 3, they only realize your value when you give them nothing. When you gave her everything, your time, your attention, your loyalty, she couldn't see it clearly. It was too available, and that's the painful irony. The more you gave, the less she saw. Because people don't always value what's consistent, they value what's earned. But the day you stopped giving, she finally started noticing. The silence wasn't just quiet, it was loud, it echoed, it made her sit in the reality of what she lost. Because for the first time, she couldn't feel your energy, she couldn't access you like before, and no text, no emoji, no old memory could bridge that distance anymore. She wanted the old you back, the one who gave her his heart for free, but that version of you no longer exists. Point 4, she wanted control. What broke her was losing it. In every toxic dynamic, there's a quiet power play, and most of the time, she doesn't want love, she wants control. Control over how much you care, control over how quickly you respond, control over whether she can walk away and come back whenever she pleases. And you gave her the illusion of that control until you didn't, until you finally stopped being available at her convenience, until you stopped waiting for breadcrumbs and started feeding yourself. That moment, when you stopped reacting, is when she realized the leash she thought you were on snapped. And there was no pulling you back this time. She never wanted to lose you. She just wanted to feel like she could. Now that she knows she can't reach you anymore, that's the punishment she never prepared for. Point 5. You don't get her back by begging. You make her regret by evolving. There's no speech that will make her love you again. No paragraph, no text, no long apology. That's not how regret is built. Regret is built in silence, in progress, in watching you become someone she no longer has access to. While she's watching your stories hoping for a sign, you're busy building, healing, evolving. That's what creates a storm inside her. The realization that you didn't need her to become better. You just needed to let her go. You don't punish her with pettiness. You punish her with peace, with elevation, with a life that she was once invited to be part of, but now is locked without a key. Let her watch. Let her wonder. Let her feel what she made you feel. Point 6. You were never the problem. You just stayed too long. Don't fall into the trap of thinking, maybe I wasn't enough. You were more than enough. You were steady, present, loving. You were the one who stayed when you should have walked. You gave second chances when you barely got first ones. You apologized even when you weren't wrong, just to keep the peace. And that's not weakness, that's love. But even love has a limit, and yours has been reached. She didn't break you, she revealed you. She exposed the parts of you that needed to be stronger, and now that you've learned, you'll never allow that again. Not because you hate her, but because you finally love yourself. Point 7. She didn't want you. She wanted what you did for her. There's a harsh truth most men don't see until it's too late. She didn't actually want you. She wanted what you did for her. The validation, the late night replies, the emotional stability, the feeling of being desired without having to give much in return. She liked the way you made her feel, not necessarily the man you are. That's why when you stopped pouring into her, she started acting different, distant, disconnected, not because she suddenly changed, but because your usefulness to her had expired. That's not love, that's emotional convenience. And a man like you deserves something deeper than that. When a woman loves you for you, she doesn't go cold when you stop giving. She stays, she supports, she shows up. So next time, pay attention. Is she into you or just what you offer? Because one will leave the moment you go dry, and the other will help you refill. Point 8. You weren't hard to love. She wasn't ready to receive it. Let's kill this lie once and for all. You weren't too much. You weren't too soft. You weren't too emotional. You were just loving someone who was emotionally unavailable. She couldn't receive the depth you offered because she was still living on the surface, addicted to chaos, validation, and games. She thought your consistency was boring, your loyalty predictable, but that's not a reflection of your worth. That's a reflection of her emotional immaturity. Some women will outgrow their childish patterns, others won't, but that's not your burden to carry. You gave her real, and she wanted a rush. You gave her peace, and she craved the drama. You gave her everything, and she didn't know what to do with it. That's not on you. So never water yourself down just to fit into someone's shallow world, because one day she'll look back and realize she had something rare, and she wasn't ready for it. You don't win by proving anything to her. You win by remembering who you were before you lost yourself trying to keep someone else. You win by standing on your own 2 feet, even when your heart still aches. You win by not going back, not because you're bitter, but because you finally know your value. And maybe she'll move on. Maybe she'll smile in photos and post like nothing ever happened. But behind closed doors, she'll remember. She'll remember the man who loved her deeply, who showed up when it mattered, who would have given her the world had she only valued it. And that memory, that loss, that's hers to carry now. So don't chase her. Don't try to be who she wants. Be who you were born to be, because the moment you found yourself was the moment she truly lost you.